Right now, what happens? A scenario could be a military person, say at age 55, loses their spouse, the individual dies. And so what happens, that individual remarries, we'll say 4 years later at age 59, then lives for another 20 years. The second spouse of that veteran or that armed forces personnel is allowed to then transfer that pension on to the second spouse. But if that veteran remarried at age 60 and lived for 20 years, the second spouse gets absolutely nothing from the superannuation plan. Now, bear in mind that this clause does not affect the Canada Pension or the Quebec Public Pension Plan. It only affects the superannuation plan of public servants throughout the entire country. And my bill focused strictly on those of the veteran community, but we plan to be much more inclusive after prorogation to include all public servants in this country, because it is simply unfair and discriminatory, in my personal view, that this legislation is still on the books, which disallows those people who look after our seniors in retirement life the opportunity to receive some sort of remuneration from a pension plan from their loved one. And bear in mind that this does not come from the general tax base. This comes from the general superannuation plan, which we understand at last investigation was well over $120 billion. It's a very healthy plan, and we firmly believe, us in the NDP anyway, that individuals who serve our country, be it in the armed forces or any other aspect of the public service, should be able to pass on their superannuation pension to their second spouse or to the person that's with them at the end of their life, in order so that they can maintain their homes and maintain some form of financial dignity to the rest of their natural lives as well. At this time, I'm more than welcome to invite Helen Rapp. Helen Rapp is a veteran. She's also the spouse of a veteran as well, one who married after age 60. And Helen Rapp has been an advocate on this issue for as long as I can remember. She's one of Canada's greatest citizens, in my view, and was recently honored in the House of Commons by a round of applause by all members of Parliament just prior to Remembrance Day. So at this time, I'd like to invite Helen Rapp to say a few words on why it's so important that this legislation change, and also to let Mr. Harper know. He prorogued Parliament to do one thing. He said in order to recalibrate and to reignite his party to get policies from Canadians about what should be in the next budget. Well, we firmly believe that this one change to the legislation will help many, many people across the country in order to assure themselves that if it comes time for them to pass on, that their superannuation pension would be able to be turned over to their second spouse or to their spouse or the person who lives with them at the end of their lives. And we think that's only fair. We think it's the right thing to do. And in a modern society like Canada, it's the proper thing to do. So Helen, if you'd like to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Peter. I'm Helen Rapp, and I'm Vice Chair, Military Widows for the Armed Forces Pensioners Association. And I have been urging the government for the last 15 years to amend Section 31 of the CFSA Act, and have gotten nowhere. Granted, there's been 3 private members' bills over the years. They've all been acknowledged in the House of Commons, but stopped. Nothing happened. And I have had great support from the National Council of Veterans of the NCVA with Cliff Chatterton's organization. Human Rights has written in our behalf. It is not included in the Human Rights mandate, but they still have given their support to the after 60 marriage. We have veterans from the Second World War and Korean War, excuse me, that are living on meager pensions. Just think of it. It's no comparison to the pensions that our military personnel receive now. And they cannot put money aside to help their spouses. They're almost on the poverty line now. So anything, and Peter's been terrific in encouraging and urging the government to do something about this. And we welcome what he's been doing for us very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And now I'd like to invite a proud veteran of our country, Mr. Gerard Bowen, Gerald Bowen, I should say, to the podium to say a few words, please. Sir?
Thank you, Peter. As my wife Helen has mentioned, she's been pursuing this for almost 20 years without a budget. And in my mind, there's something almost sinful about this act, Section 31, which is called the Gold Diggers Act. And I maintain if Helen was a gold digger, she would never have married me. It's vital. I served 33 years in the forces, 2 wars, etc. And the very thought that when I pass on, which won't be too many years away, that I have no way of leaving any part of my pension to my wife. Now, there's something sinful about that. The pension fund, as Peter has pointed out, is fat, so it's no drain on the public purse. And I would like to think that, that the Parliament will rise up, all members of Parliament will rise up and say this Section 31 of Canadian Forces Superannuation Act has got to be deleted. And if you marry after the age of 60, Helen and I were in our 70s when we married, we should be able to leave our wives a portion of our superannuation. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Mary Buchanan, herself a widow of an individual who had unfortunately passed away, and she'll describe her situation of what happened to her at the time of his passing. Mary?
Thank you, Peter. Yes, this is a 1901 Act of Parliament. I should think today in 2010 that things, should be different. This is hard for me. I haven't spoken before like this. But yes, it was great hardship in 1993 when I found out after my husband died that there would be absolutely no income for me at all. I eventually received the public service pension, but not the national defense one. My husband was 27 years in the RCAF, and I really don't know what more I can say. I think it's very unjust, and I think it's a complete insult to be called a gold digger. And I think it's a tremendous insult to my late husband. Thank you.